The rain was relentless that Tuesday morning in Seattle, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. I'm Alistair, 46, an IT specialist, and for the last 18 years I thought I had it all. A beautiful home in Bellevue, a fulfilling career, and a wife, Bront, whom I adored. We'd met at a coffee shop near the Space Needle, our eyes locking over mismatched mugs, and it felt like destiny. Or so I believed. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Bront, a freelance graphic designer, began working longer hours, citing demanding clients and looming deadlines. Dinners were skipped, weekend getaways postponed. Her laughter, once a constant melody in our home, became a rare, almost foreign sound. I attributed it to stress, offering massages and endless cups of herbal tea, trying to ease her burden. But the distance between us only grew wider, a chasm I couldn't bridge. One evening, while Bront was at a conference in Portland, I decided to surprise her with a delivery of her favorite flowers, white lilies, their fragrance reminiscent of our wedding day. I called her cell, intending to get the hotel address, but it went straight to voicemail. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach. I tried again and again, but the result was the same. Maybe she was in a meeting, I reasoned, forcing myself to calm down. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it began to sprout, its tendrils wrapping around my heart. Later that night, unable to sleep, I found myself drawn to Bront's laptop, which she'd left open on the kitchen counter. I knew I shouldn't, that snooping was a violation of her privacy, but the nagging suspicion gnawed at me, demanding to be addressed. My fingers trembled as I clicked on her email icon. The password field was already filled in, a convenience she usually never allowed. It was as if she wanted me to find something. Or perhaps she was just careless, lost in her world of lies. The inbox was a labyrinth of invoices and client communications, but my eyes were drawn to a recently deleted email. With a shaky hand, I recovered it. The subject line was simple: tonight. The sender was listed as Caspian. The email was brief, but its message hit me like a physical blow. Can't wait to see you tonight, my love. Room 308. I'll be waiting. My world tilted on its axis. Room 308, Portland, the conference. It all clicked into place with sickening clarity. Bront wasn't at a conference, she was with someone else. My wife, the woman I had trusted and loved unconditionally, was having an affair. The room swam before my eyes, the familiar surroundings blurring into an unrecognizable landscape of betrayal. I stumbled backward, knocking over a stack of cookbooks, their pages fluttering to the floor like fallen leaves. The sound echoed in the silence, a deafening reminder of my shattered reality. For what felt like an eternity, I stood there, paralyzed by shock and disbelief. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the senseless. How could she do this to me? What had I done to deserve this? Was our marriage a lie? Had she ever truly loved me? The questions swirled in my head, unanswered and unanswerable. I sank into a chair, the weight of the revelation crushing me. Tears streamed down my face, hot and bitter, as the full extent of Bront's betrayal washed over me. In that moment, I felt utterly alone, adrift in a sea of despair. The woman I had built my life around, the woman I had shared my dreams and fears with, had ripped my heart out and stomped on it without a second thought. As the initial shock began to subside, a cold, hard anger replaced it. An anger directed not only at Bront but also at myself for being so blind, so naive, so willing to believe her lies. I spent the rest of the night in a daze, replaying the email over and over in my mind, each reading deepening the wound. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think. All I could feel was the burning pain of betrayal and the gnawing emptiness of loss. By morning, I had made a decision. I couldn't stay in Seattle, not with the memories of Bront haunting every corner of our home. I needed to escape, to find some semblance of peace, to rebuild my life from the ashes of her deceit. I booked a one-way ticket to London, a city I had always dreamed of visiting but never had the time or the opportunity. It was a drastic move, a leap of faith into the unknown, but I knew I had to do it. I had to leave Bront, leave our life, leave everything behind. Before leaving for the airport, I wrote Bront a letter, pouring out my heart, my pain, my anger. I didn't accuse her, didn't beg her for an explanation. I simply told her that I knew that I was leaving and that I never wanted to see her again. I left the letter on the kitchen counter next to her laptop, a silent testament to her betrayal. Then I packed a suitcase, grabbed my passport, and walked out the door, leaving behind the life I had known and loved, a life that had been shattered by one email. London was a whirlwind of new experiences, new faces, new challenges. I found a small apartment in Notting Hill, a cozy space that felt like a sanctuary. I immersed myself in the city's vibrant culture, exploring its museums, its theaters, its hidden alleyways. I took long walks in Hyde Park, feeding the swans and watching the changing seasons. I spent hours in bookstores, losing myself in the pages of classic novels. I even started taking a photography class, capturing the beauty of London through my lens. Slowly, gradually, I began to heal. The pain of Braunt's betrayal didn't disappear entirely, but it dulled, its sharp edges softened by time and distance. I started to see the world in a new light, to appreciate the simple things, to value my own worth. One evening, while attending a photography exhibit, I met a woman named Isolde. She was an art curator, intelligent, witty, and beautiful. We struck up a conversation, and I found myself drawn to her warmth and her genuine interest in my story. We started dating, cautiously at first, both of us wary of past hurts. But as we got to know each other better, we realized that we had found something special, a connection that transcended our individual pain. Isolde helped me to trust again, to open my heart to the possibility of love. She showed me that not all women are like Braunt, that there are still good, honest, and loyal people in the world. 1 year after leaving Seattle, I received a letter from Braunt. It was a long, rambling apology, filled with excuses and justifications. She claimed that she had been unhappy for years, that I had been too focused on my career, that she had felt neglected and unloved. She admitted that the affair with Caspian had been a mistake, a moment of weakness, and that she regretted it deeply. She begged me to forgive her, to give her another chance. As I read her words, I felt a strange sense of detachment. The anger and pain that had consumed me for so long had finally dissipated, replaced by a quiet indifference. I realized that I had moved on, that I had built a new life for myself, a life that didn't include Braunt. I had found happiness again, and I wasn't willing to jeopardize it by reopening old wounds. I wrote Braunt a short, polite reply, thanking her for her apology but telling her that I couldn't forgive her. I wished her well and asked her not to contact me again. Then I tore up her letter and threw it in the trash, symbolically discarding the last vestiges of our past. Several years passed. Isolde and I got married in a small ceremony in the Cotswolds, surrounded by our closest friends and family. We bought a cottage in the countryside, a peaceful retreat from the hustle and bustle of London. I continued to pursue my passion for photography, exhibiting my work in galleries and selling prints online. I finally felt like I had found my purpose, my place in the world. One day, I received an email from a mutual friend in Seattle. It contained a link to an online article about Braunt. She had been diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of cancer. The prognosis was not good. I felt a pang of sadness, a flicker of the old empathy that I had once felt for her. But it was fleeting, quickly replaced by a sense of closure. I knew that Braunt's illness was not my burden to bear. I had forgiven her, not for her sake, but for my own. I had released her from my life, and I had released myself from hers. I closed the email and turned to Isolde, who was waiting for me with a cup of tea and a warm smile. I wrapped my arms around her and held her close, grateful for the love and happiness that she had brought into my life. I had survived Braunt's betrayal, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. I had learned that love can be both a blessing and a curse, that trust can be shattered in an instant, and that forgiveness is the key to healing. And as I looked into Isolde's eyes, I knew that I had finally found my happily ever after. But the story doesn't end there. Karma, it seems, has a way of settling debts. A few months later, I received another email, this one from an anonymous sender. It contained a link to Caspian's LinkedIn profile. He was no longer a successful businessman. He was working as a janitor at a local school. His reputation and career ruined after Braunt exposed his fraudulent business practices in a desperate attempt to salvage what was left of her life. The email also included photos of Braunt, gaunt and frail, sitting alone in a hospital room. The sender claimed to be a former colleague of Braunt's, someone who had witnessed her downfall and felt compelled to share it with me. The photos were disturbing, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the consequences of our actions. I felt a wave of pity wash over me, a sense of compassion for the woman who had once been my wife. I showed the email and the photos to Isolde. She held my hand and listened patiently as I recounted the story of Braunt's betrayal and my journey to healing. When I finished, she said, "You've come so far, Alistair. Don't let this drag you back." I nodded, knowing that she was right. I couldn't allow Braunt's suffering to consume me to negate the progress I had made. I had to stay focused on the present, on the love and happiness that I had found with Isolde, but I couldn't ignore Braunt's plight entirely. I decided to make a donation to the Cancer Research Foundation that was funding her treatment. It was a small gesture, a token of goodwill, but it was the best I could do. I didn't contact Braunt, didn't try to reach out to her. I knew that it would only cause more pain and confusion. I had to respect her boundaries as well as my own. Instead, I focused on my life with Isolde, on our shared dreams and aspirations. We traveled the world, explored new cultures, and created memories that would last a lifetime. We adopted a rescue dog named Barnaby, a scruffy terrier mix who quickly became a beloved member of our family. We volunteered at a local animal shelter, helping to care for abandoned and neglected animals. We hosted dinner parties for our friends and neighbors, filling our home with laughter and warmth. We created a community of love and support, a safe haven from the storms of life. And as I looked around at my life, at the happiness and contentment that I had found, I knew that I had made the right decision. I had chosen to forgive, to move on, to embrace the future with open arms. Braunt's betrayal had been a devastating blow, but it had also been a catalyst for change. It had forced me to reevaluate my priorities, to rediscover my passions, and to find true love. And in the end, that was the greatest revenge of all, to live a life of happiness and fulfillment, a life that Braunt could never touch. Looking back, I realized that Braunt's affair was not a reflection of my worth as a husband or as a person. It was a reflection of her own insecurities, her own unhappiness, her own inability to commit to a loving and lasting relationship. I had done everything I could to make her happy, to support her dreams, to cherish her love. But in the end, it wasn't enough. She had to make her own choices, and she had to live with the consequences. And I had to make my own choices, to protect my heart, to heal my wounds, and to find a love that was true and enduring. And that is exactly what I did. I found a love that was stronger than betrayal, a love that was deeper than pain, a love that would last a lifetime. So to you, the reader who may be facing a similar situation, I offer this advice. Don't let betrayal define you. Don't let it steal your joy or your hope. Forgive, move on, and find your own happily ever after. It's out there, waiting for you. You just have to be brave enough to reach for it.